Hey folks, this is GreenyXI welcoming you right back to Let's Play Higurashi. This is episode 207. In the last episode, or recently, we've been going through the Outbreak arc, and we discovered recently that Rika was sort of taken away because she's the sort of head of the town. She needs to be safe, something like that. Not head of the town, but she's like the queen ant of the last arc, but in a different sort of way in this arc. And Satoko on her own, so they want to consider kidnapping her, and having her live in one of their houses. As the disturbing atmosphere towards outsiders like the Mayabara family grew stronger, there was another change that fanned the anxiety of the villagers. The SDF had been supporting the villagers' unstable lifestyles, as well as providing mental support, but they had suddenly disappeared from the village. The elders, who hated standing around in long lines before the water supply trucks, had already lined up early. But no matter how long they waited, the trucks weren't showing up. At first we made this generous assumption that something had delayed them. But the fact that the SDF's deliveries had always been punctual before only worked against them, fanning anxieties even higher. Once it was long past the scheduled delivery time, the morning line grew steadily longer, and the anger they felt at the water trucks for not arriving grew into anxiety. Uh-oh. By the way, it was after I saved, or before I saved, day 11. I think it was day 11. I finally interfere. I didn't realise there was more to that sentence. The situation rapidly grew worse. Finally, people began whispering that the SDF had abandoned us. Anyone would be shocked after hearing that rumour. The actions of the SDF were the final dam maintaining the villagers' sanity. With that dam suddenly removed, it was easy to feel as though the village had been cast out of Japan. However, there were a few villagers who weren't frightened by the SDF's disappearance. They had taken an optimistic view and assumed the quarantine would be lifted. Those people even tried to leave the village, yet something strange occurred at the barricades sealing us off. Instead of the personnel clad in white raincoats that had been manning the barricades before, there were soldiers blocking the path, wearing much tougher looking camouflaged gear that was more like a spacesuit. They even had an armoured car parked behind them too. Now why did the villagers insist on calling them soldiers? Because the guns they carried looked that dangerous. At the very least, none of the SDF members performing relief efforts had carried guns. Not only were the soldiers carrying their own guns, but the armoured car also had a heavy machine gun stationed at its top hatch, and they aimed its muzzle at the villagers without hesitation. After aiming, they issued a warning too. This is the JGSDF. You are not permitted to leave this quarantine zone. Please return to your homes at once. Seeing and hearing that made them certain. Circumstances had changed. The commotion about this dangerous virus had progressed to the point where it was beyond the SDF's control, so they abandoned providing aid to the village and were trying to seal it away. That gave way to anger at the nation who abandoned their relief efforts, and even greater fear at the idea that things had progressed that poorly. The villagers tried demanding an explanation of affairs from the soldiers, but they fired live ammo without remorse, intending to intimidate, and announced that they would target their legs next if they did not leave immediately. The villagers then scattered like spiders and fled back to the village. As you would. Afterward, this story grew exaggerated, and people started saying some of them were actually shot and wounded or even dead, causing even further turmoil. Actually, there's still a chance the part about warning fire was all made up too. But there's no way to verify that anymore, and no need to, because that story wasn't being proven false, so it had already become truth. On top of that, some kind of jamming wave was emitted from somewhere, suddenly making the radios useless, leaving word of mouth as the only means of communication, which increased the turmoil even further. That day, the first gunshot rang out in the village. We couldn't know for sure if the soldiers trapping us in had fired on a villager, like the rumours suggested, or if some villager had fired their hunting rifle. But as that gunshot roared through the village, the whole population fell away from the law and order of civilized Japan. The town council used their network to reach out and explain there was a mistake in the organisation of relief efforts on the SDF's side, and that due to the mistake it would be some time before the relief efforts resumed. They also asked the villagers to help one another until that time. Had that message been sent out before such great anxiety spread throughout the village, then they might have been able to improve things a little. But it was all too late. Even though the SDF had ceased supplying food and water, every house had at least some stored up. However, no one knew how long this delay of provisions would last. The noxious, heated air permeating the village was steadily robbing people of their sanity. Fearing that some insurgent might descend upon them in search of food, the shopping district had banded together and armed all the shops, forming their own neighbourhood watch. Barricades taken from the dam site were lined up at the entrance to the shopping district. We are closed indefinitely. If you have no business here, you may not set foot within. If you still insist on entering, then please discuss it with us on a case-by-case basis. Read the sign they had posted up where the residents of the shopping district took their turns standing watch with hunting rifles. There was also another small flyer beside it. Those living in Takatsudo, please go away. That one was based on the rumours of the infected in Takatsudo. However, as the rumours continued to grow, there would likely be more signs posted next to it prohibiting other regions as well. For a moment we thought that we might be able to have more interaction, now that the SDF was no longer quarantining us separately, but the youth groups in each town council quickly took up that mantle of isolation. Everyone believed that their area had yet to become infected, and they could remain safe if they kept out people from other areas. Hinamazawa was fundamentally a farming village, but there were several people who had made their living through hunting since long ago, so the number of hunting rifles wasn't exactly small. Because of that, those who owned one volunteered to serve as guards. The number who volunteered directly translated into that town's council's power. Either that, or it became their power to blur the line between fantasy and reality in order to realize their delusions of persecution. That day, it was July the 7th, the day of Tanabata. When we turned the television on, it displayed images of cute young children writing their wishes on boards and stretching out to hang them up on bamboo stalks. Yet here in Hinamazawa, our Tanabata involved posted signs rejecting the infected up on violent-looking barricades while many took up hunting rifles and glared at each other suspiciously. What is Tanabata? It was hard to believe this was still the same Japan. That was a quick one. The sections are quite quick. Which is what makes me think this mini-arc, this arc, is the main one of this game. We did the one before it, but that was quicker. Late at night, my mother visited me. She was clutching an envelope in her hand. Keiichi, just now we received a letter for you, Keiichi. A letter? To me? I snatched it up at once. It read, to Kei-chan, from Mion. What was this about, and during such a dark time? According to my mother, the doorbell rang, and by the time she reached our front door, it was shoved through the gap. She could have just come in if she went out of her way to visit. So the fact that she avoided doing so and left only a letter had me feeling a tinge anxious. Though considering the abnormal state of the village lately, it made sense that Mion would be careful about trying to make contact. All the talk of this being an indigenous virus, or being Oyashiro-sama's wrath, would ultimately end with those people suspecting the outsiders who'd moved into town recently. The whole Maebara family was made painfully aware of that lately. Even before opening the letter, I could understand that things had reached the point where Mion, as a Sonzaki, couldn't visit us in broad daylight anymore. And yet, the contents of this letter quickly informed me that was still a naive point of view. To Kei-chan, be careful. The idea that we should make an example out of the Maebaras and Ryugus is gaining more strength in our council area. I know it's a really crazy idea, but they've already been driven to the point where they'll be consumed by fear if they don't sacrifice someone. I was only able to argue otherwise the first few times, but starting several days ago, if anyone tried to object, they argued that person was covering for the infected because they were infected too. Now no one's putting a stop to this talk of lynching you all. It was fine back when they were all evenly split between the virus supporters and the Oshiro-sama's curse supporters, since they both just argue incoherently with each other. But lately the curse supporters are gaining ground. It won't be long before they're leading the whole group. If my granny were well, she'd never allow such a riot. But she actually came down with a fever a few days ago. Now she can't get out of bed. Some of my relatives have started spreading rumours that it's the infection, so I'm losing my ability to speak at the council too. Like, if I'm not careful, they could sacrifice me as well. With the position I'm in now, it's going to be hard for me to speak on behalf of your and Rena's family anymore. I could see that Mion's writing had steadily grown more hastened and sloppy as it went on. I didn't even have to ask, to understand how she must have felt. I think it's dangerous to stay in Hinamazawa any longer than this. At the very least, if we stay shut up in our homes like this, then sooner or later we'll be murdered. So I'm planning to escape the village tomorrow night. The SDF is blocking off the perimeter, but the Sonzakis have secret tunnels, and one of them exits out beyond the quarantine. Me and Granny are the only ones who know about these tunnels. I wanted to wait until after she recovered, but that doesn't look possible anymore. My Granny just told me to leave her behind and run. My Granny's saying that this is a return to the ancient legend of demons coming out from Onikafuchi Swamp. Right now all the villagers are possessed by demons, and they're going to start murdering each other. In those legends, Ayashiro-sama managed to calm everyone down. But before they were able to do so, the blood-soaked conflict they produced resulted in a massive number of casualties. They're going to kill us all. That brings me to the main point. Tell your family tonight about all this and have them get ready, Kai-chan. I'll come for you all tomorrow night, and then we'll escape. Bring your cash, insurance card, bank book, family seal. Also fill your backpack with clothes and daily necessities. But don't let it get too heavy. Don't bring anything you have to carry. Make absolutely certain you can use both hands. For shoes, wear a comfortable pair you can walk easily in. I'm sending this same letter to Renner as well. This might seem like it's coming out of left field, so I doubt it feels real to you just yet. But trust me, I've been to the town council meetings and the gatherings of the three families, so I have a very clear idea of just how crazy this village has become. You need to understand how dangerous this is, even if you have faith in and do everything I've asked you. I'm estimating only a 10% possibility at best of you, me, Renner and our families all escaping Hinamazawa safely. That was the end of Mion's letter. What the hell? This whole situation was too much for me to take in, and so I gripped my head. Yet Mion had entrusted this letter to me and asked me to trust her, knowing I'd feel that way. Once I took 3 deep breaths, I was able to realise that the danger Mion spoke of wasn't too far-fetched, considering the festering attitude that had filled Hinamazawa lately. What she had written here was unmistakably true. At the same time, that made me fear for Sadako. It made sense the letter didn't mention Rika, who the SDF had in custody, but there wasn't a single word written here about Sadako, who had been left in this village all alone. The only names on it were mine and Renner's. There's no way Mion could have forgotten about the club members, so there's no way she'd forget to mention Sadako. So then why? Terrible imaginations assailed my mind, each of them trying to suffocate me. That's right, Mion already mentioned her. She told us there were those who seriously believed that Oyashiro-sama's anger would subside if Sadako were offered as a sacrifice. No way. It's Sadako. I shot up from my seat, and the metal bat leaning against the bookshelf fell down, stopping against my feet. It was almost like it was telling me to take it with me. That was when I heard a gunshot. If this had been a normal, peaceful day, I would have assumed it was some kid having fun by setting off firecrackers or bottle rockets, but because we were in such an abnormal situation, I didn't make those wrong assumptions, encouraged as they were by times of peace. Ooh, shots fired. One of the club members takes a bullet for the team. Ooh! I opened my curtain and strained to peer into the darkness when I heard another gunshot. It sounded like it was even closer this time. I thought I could hear someone shouting something nearby. Suddenly our doorbell began ringing frantically. Bing bong, bing bong. My mind became clear. All unnecessary noise vanished from my thoughts. It felt like I didn't even need to breathe. And in that vacuum state, I picked up the metal bat at my feet and raced for the front door. I showed the bat! At the entrance I found my mom cowering, and my dad running in from the kitchen with a carving knife. Up until a moment ago, I would have thought it strange for my dad to respond so violently, but in this exact moment, that actually felt like the proper response. My mom looked back at my dad, wondering if it was safe to open the door. He had to step away from it. The button for our doorbell was pressed at our gate, so whoever had pressed it had now come through our gate and was standing right in front of the house. Then there was a bang, 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 knocking violently on our door. Who is it? My father shouted. They answered immediately. Good evening. It's Ryugu. Please let me in. It's Renner. I leapt out from behind my father, from the sound of Renner's voice. This was an emergency. We needed to open the door right away, even if we were plunged into a nightmare situation where the villagers had started a bloodbath. We club members would never doubt each other. What? Mion? You alright? She's not alright. We need to hurry and stop the bleeding. Rena was carrying a blood-soaked Mion, whose breathing was fading fast. Asking if she was alright was just a waste of time. Not even a social courtesy. After that cry from Rena, we carried Mion in past our door and laid her down on the floor. Mion's left shoulder was badly injured and her clothes were stained red with blood. Her clothes were supposed to be yellow, the shirt Mion loved to wear in her free time. That bright yellow shirt she always wore once school was over. That symbol of all our fun times together. That shirt that I was always happy to see. Was now completely stained a purest red. Hey! She needs help! Grab a towel or something! Mion was holding her wound with a handkerchief, but the blood continued to spill from it. Her handkerchief would have dripped blood if it were wrung out. It was impossible to tell what colour or design it used to be, and whether it was Mion's favourite. What on earth happened? Rena-chan, what's going on here? My father asked, without putting away his knife. Rena frowned, having difficulty deciding where to even begin. Her expression made it clear that we didn't have time for her to explain. But did we even need an explanation? The bright red blood staining her body from when she carried Mion was better than any words to convey the urgency of this situation. Also, we could soon explain it much faster than any explanation Rena might produce, because moments later we heard a tremendous bang outside our front door. Did she have a gunshot wound? We realised the situation without a moment to spare. She was shot. Someone had shot her outside our house. Rena spun around at the sound of that shot, all while raising the huge hatchet she had carried in one hand, even while carrying Mion. I gripped my bat and chased after Rena, my feet still bare. I didn't even hear my father calling for me behind us. Rena! Rena leapt on someone standing at our front gate, ruthlessly splitting his head open with her hatchet. The moment was unbelievable, and all too short. Rena easily brandished her huge hatchet at another man and threw it at him with tremendous force. A silver glint of moonlight flashed off the blade as it soared into the man's face. The man let out a short cry as a small dark spray spewed from his head. My understanding of typical social morals made my brain want to shout, "What are you doing, Rena?" But I also wanted to know who was such a threat that they warranted this reaction. Once Rena reached the man stumbling around with her hatchet in his face, she roughly yanked it out, then slammed the long hatchet into his head over and over. The man begged repeatedly for her to stop, but Rena didn't listen to him at all. Once she confirmed he wasn't moving anymore, she spoke. Killing someone means that you're ready to be killed in return, so don't take it lightly. It was almost like those words were meant for me. From Rena's perspective, I probably looked like I was still too accustomed to peace to understand the emergency we faced. But that was when Rena turned and shouted, "That man's still alive!" Huh? Oh! The man Rena first defeated, the man that fired a gun at our front door, was clutching his forehead and trying to stand. He was already injured so badly we could probably let him go, but that thought was probably just me clinging to peace. Rena didn't have that thought at all. The man was holding his head with one hand, but his other was still holding his hunting rifle. The threat this man posed wasn't dealt with if he could still pull the trigger on his gun. The thick lump of metal swung into him once more. This time, the man's head cracked open. Rena turned back and glared at me. I was closest to that man, not Rena. Rena had shouted so I could take him down, yet I stood there spacing out, so Rena attacked him. He'd had a gun. If he had been quicker, Rena couldn't have done anything from her position. That's why she entrusted him to me. But I just stood there blankly, still unable to grasp the situation. Her stern expression made me realise that, so I immediately apologised. Sorry. It's fine. Just hurry. Rena yanked her hatchet out of the man's head and picked up his gun with her other hand. Even if you don't shoot, a gun can still be used to frighten opponents. Right. That's fine. Just hurry up and get ready to run. Huh? Didn't Mion say she'd come tomorrow in the letter she wrote? There goes my false sense of security. Oh yeah, but tell me, what on earth happened? I asked Ren as we ran back to my front door. You got a letter from her too, right, Keiji-kun? Mi-chan brought the same letter over to my house. That was when the neighborhood watch discovered her and shot her. Mi-chan hadn't done anything to them. All she did was deliver a letter to me, and they shot her. They said the Ryugus were infected, and anyone interacting with them was an ally of the infected, but they decided that all on their own, and they shot her for it. Mi-chan hadn't done anything to them, but they didn't care, and they shot her anyway. Rena's eyes were full of anger and sadness as tears spilled down her cheeks. There wasn't anything I could say to her while she was possessed by those powerful emotions. When we returned to my front door, Mion had been given a towel for the blood, and my mother was with her, helping her put pressure on the wound. My mother was all shook up. The only medicines we kept in the house were band-aids, headache medicine, cold medicine at best. We didn't have anything to help treat the gunshot wound. Rena came back into our house with more blood splattered on her clothes and staining her hatchet. Given the commotion that just happened, my father understood everything once he saw the hunting rifle in Rena's hands. Once Rena understood that he did too, she spoke. Sir, if we don't flee this place right now, we'll die. My own father was already murdered. Just now, he tried to save Mi-chan, so they didn't even hesitate. They shot him as easily as if they were driving off crows. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Mion's mouth opened feebly after hearing Rena's screams. I'm sorry, Rena. If I hadn't screwed up. I'm really sorry. It's not your fault, Mi-chan, and I don't hate anyone anymore. Those who deserve my hatred have all paid the proper price. So did the man who shot you, Mi-chan. Just moments ago, Rena watched her father get murdered and Mion get shot, and then she dragged herself out of that hell where even her own life was in danger. The expression on her face was one I had never glimpsed in our daily life. It made me realise just how hellish it had all been for her. Anyway, you need to get ready to run right now. The others are already closing in. What are the villagers coming here for? What are they trying to do? There was no need to ask for an answer from Mion's bloody mouth. That was why my father swallowed his confusion, and after clearing his throat, simply asked one thing. Run? To where? There's a hidden tunnel in Mi-chan's secret basement that none of the villagers know about. So long as we can make it there, we should be able to pull through. Rena explained what was written in the letter on Mion's behalf. Mion still tried to explain, but ended up coughing instead. Dad, Mum, we don't have a moment to waste. Let's run. Right, let's go. My father registered the present danger, and it only took several seconds to abandon his morals as an average member of normal society before nodding. But my mother couldn't make a quick decision. But if we run, what'll happen to our home? We don't know what's going to happen. If the villagers come here, they may very well burn our house down. But if my mother understood that, then her hesitation didn't make any sense. If they were willing to burn down our home, then what good would holding up inside do? Who knows what they would do to us then? My mother wasn't an idiot. Maybe that's exactly why she was so confused. At this moment, my father, who had been on edge since the first day of the quarantine, was the one acting reasonable. Still, my mother managed to regain some sense, so she went back in and grabbed only her handbag with her bank book. My father took the hunting rifle from Rena. He boasted that he knew how to handle one after using a similar type of air gun, but it was up to the listener to determine how reassuring that sounded. Mion told us to leave her behind since she'd only slow us down, but Rena slapped her hard after that suggestion. No! Bad! Without you, we won't know where the secret basement is. Don't abandon your responsibility so lightly. Now take us there. With you around, I can't die an easy death at all. It looked like Mion had recovered enough energy to talk back at least. But we couldn't leave her wound untreated forever. If we don't get a proper doctor to look at her, then all that blood loss will lead to disaster. Hey Mi-chan, we don't have time to debate this, so give me an answer. Rena glared at Mion with a dry expression, and asked her just one thing. Why were you suggesting we should escape without Sadako-chan? Ooh, Keiichi thought this. Yeah, I wondered that myself. What's going on with Sadako, Mion? She's in a worse position than me and Rena, right? We can't just leave Sadako behind. Sadako's... Mion trailed off, but Rena wasn't allowing her to get away with just that. If she's dead, then just tell us. If you don't, Then we're going to believe she's still alive. Without thinking, I narrowed my eyes tight. That image of the worst possible outcome crossed my mind more than once or twice. There's no way Mion would ever forget about Sadako, yet her name was absent from the letters she wrote us. That left only one possible reason. Even I was able to imagine why, but I couldn't put it into words. Sadako's been taken away by those rioters from before. They said they were dragging her to Onagafuchi. Apparently, they're going to spend 3 days submerging her, according to the rituals passed down in the village. So she's alive? She's still alive then? At least for now? Rena and I both latched on Mion at once. However, neither of us had any thought of blaming Mion for nearly abandoning Sadako. Mion used the information she was able to gather as a Sonozaki to make a logical decision. And after bitter deliberation, she decided she wouldn't be able to save her. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything about it. The council's officials took the lead, and after they added the shrine group, the youth group, the neighbourhood watch, and other volunteers from the village, their numbers swelled past 100 people. The watch is close with the hunting club too, so they're armed with at least 20 shotguns and rifles. Everyone keeps spouting, "Oyashiro-sama! Oyashiro-sama!" like they've all been possessed. There's no mercy left in them. If I tried to protect Sadako, the villagers would have shot me to death without hesitation. Like they did to you, and to my father. Mion nodded bitterly, as tears spilled from her eyes. She wept at her own lack of power to stop them, and for the lost lives of the villagers who still tried to uphold justice. I don't understand why. Everyone was normal just 3 days ago. They were reasonable then. But they've gone mad in just the past 72 hours. Their eyes are bloodshot. They've lost all reason. They didn't go crazy just because the SDF left. They were crazy before then. The killer virus isn't what's scary now. It's everyone in the village. I have a few thoughts. This virus, it isn't one that drives people to death, but one that drives people to madness, making the villagers become demons one after another. Just try retracing the legend of Oyashiro-sama once more. Oyashiro-sama is the only one who can resolve the situation, and her reincarnation, Rika-chan, is nowhere to be found. Besides, Oyashiro-sama was a god anyway, right? They weren't human, were they? There's nothing we humans can do. Nothing. Calm down, Mion. I crouched down, and even knowing it would aggravate her wound, I held her head tight and let her hear my heartbeat. Thank you. While Rena and I were taking it easy without realizing what was going on, you were working hard behind the scenes to try and stop the rumors. I'm sure that's why the village wasn't swallowed by madness until today. If it wasn't for your hard work, the inevitable tragedy we faced today would have consumed us long ago. So thank you, Mion. I think that was laughter. Mion was in the deepest ranks of the Sonzakis, and even though she's just a kid like us, she fought all this time. She fought against the overwhelming madness of the village up until the very end. With her efforts acknowledged, she cried into Kaiichi's chest. I was crying. The tears she was shedding now were slightly different than the ones she'd shed before. Rena, I know you might want to blame Mion, but I don't plan on blaming her at all. That's actually good to hear, Rena said casually. She's a strange one. Though it feels like the bigger the gamble, or the more dangerous the situation, the more composed she gets. Just like a blue flame. At first glance it looks like it's just burning quietly, but it burns far hotter than a red one does. That's why I answered in turn. Yeah, that's true. This is good news, without a doubt. Yeah, it's great news. I mean, Sadako-chan's alive. On top of that, we know they'll keep her alive for another 72 hours. That's fantastic to hear. The bat I had been gripping began to grow hot in my grasp, almost as if the bat had been immersed in a blazing fire, the heat stinging the palms of my hands. I know, Satoshi. There's nothing to fear when even you get serious. One hit from this will smash their heads in. Kaiichi, don't tell me. You're planning on rescuing Sadako-chan? Dad, take Mom and Mion and escape through the secret exit. Rena and I will handle the rest. Kaiichi! I'm sorry, ma'am. Please take care of Mi-chan. Also, don't take your eyes off her. Mi-chan doesn't play fair and likes to steal the spotlight, so she might try sneaking off after us, even though she's badly wounded and in a lot of pain. Treat me like I'm dead weight. Judging from Mion's current state, she didn't really have the energy to do that. But she'd never be so heartless as to silently watch us head off. Mion absolutely would try to follow us and provide backup, even if both her legs were falling off. But we can't allow Mion to die. We're not going to lose a single one of our friends. We won't let that happen. And Mion's our leader. Without her, there'd be no one to wrangle us wild horses together. Besides, she's also the one who knows how to escape from this village. Keiichi. Don't give me such a sad look, Mom. At times like these, you gotta send us off with a smile. Dad, I'll meet up with you later at the Sonzaki house. Keiichi, you two should come with us. You can't face them alone. Sir, I appreciate the sentiment, but it's already too late. See? Rena flung open the door, and we heard the hustling movements of a huge crowd, chanting Oyashiro-sama over and over like some creepy sutra. They're meant to be like zombies. We wasted too much time dawdling. If we were all in top condition and ran at full speed, then we would have had the option of running away from here like my father suggested. But since my father wasn't used to thinking like we do in our club activities, he was a move behind. So long as Mion was heavily wounded, we needed someone to buy time for them to take Mion and escape. And a normal person like my father, who still hadn't steeled his resolve after we were driven into this corner, wasn't going to be useful in the fight. The only ones who could fight were the club members thoroughly trained by Mion, who were able to release their limiters and grasp the severity of the situation instantly. Let's go, Keiichi-kun. Ooh, action music. Right, let's go take care of this real quick. The bright farewell Rena and Keiichi left for his parents was almost the same as when they headed to school in the morning, but they didn't have their bags. Instead they carried a hatchet and a metal bat. They weren't wearing their uniforms either. No, what they wore was enough of a uniform. Their blood-soaked clothes were a more than fitting uniform for that mad and crimson night. We exited out the front door and closed the door behind us, silently willing the others to run in that time. Beyond the door, there were the lights of several flashlights swaying like the breaths of ravenous beasts. Every one of them was chanting Oyashiro-sama's name as they drew closer. There were probably the same number of people as our class. Wow, just over 20, huh? You think they think they can win? I'm betting they do. Well, amateurs would believe that when there's 20 of them together. What a foolish bunch they are. If they tried to settle things peacefully, they might have held out a little longer. But they've made a grave mistake. Yeah, they did. They attacked Mion. They kidnapped Satoko. They went after our club. And that sealed their fate. Rena and I practically slid forward as we ran and hid behind the gateposts on the sides. Our quick movements were like a panther's after its prey. They certainly weren't the movements of a cornered rat. In this situation it was... No, with the composure they showed, it was hard to tell who was being hunted. I need to scratch my head. It was under my headphone. I wonder why. Even though we're facing so many people, I'm not afraid at all. That much is strange. I wonder why too. If there was a world of dreams and daydreams, then in some other world we must have already fought against much more powerful, frightening and vast numbers. Yet we still overwhelmed them. So it didn't feel like we were going to lose to people like this. Hey Keiichi-kun, when Mi-chan was talking to us earlier, when you said you thought that was good news too, I thought it was good news for a different reason. What other reason? It sounds fun, so tell me. Oh wait, have I already figured it out? Right now Rena was wearing the same expression as me, and smiling with confidence. It's not so much that you figured it out, as it just doesn't matter to you at all, really. Then tell me, what was this good news for you? Well, our enemies are the town council's shrine group, the youth group, and the neighbourhood watch, totaling a little over 100, right? On top of that, there's the hunting club with about 20 rifles. Good grief. Like it's totally on our side, isn't it? Because there's only 100 to face. There's not enough of them to go around. I was convinced the whole village was our enemy. I was ready to crush all 2,000 people in Hinamazawa, so I was almost disappointed to hear there were so few. 100 people in 72 hours? There's only 20 here. They're underestimating us. They're absolutely underestimating us. Taking down 100 foes in 72 hours when Rena and I are both serious? Think we'll have time to spare? Nah, there won't be enough. You think they'll give us trouble? Idiot. That's not what I meant. I chuckled. Together we laughed. The 20 that had picked a fight with me on were drawing closer. Then they finally got in range to attack. Now let's have some fun. Let's have lots and lots of fun over these next 72 hours. Satoko-chan, wait up for us. The 3-day-long Crimson Tragedy was about to begin. Ooh, they got NPC pictures of people. Just random people. It's funny. I don't know. They don't normally do that, do they? It was always just the main characters at the avatars. Avatars? Rika! They didn't even say they were going for Rika. Ah, maybe they're not. Sadako, okay. She's always crying. She's the crier of the group. She always has a bad time, to be fair. I'm glad it's skipping through things a bit. Good pacing. This game, I like it, but it can have some really slow pacing sometimes. He's just doing it through pictures. So they saved her. What was Rika up to, I wonder, with Oyashira? There's some new pictures in this arc. Some nice ones. That's a nice image. Club members assemble. The missing club members are rescued and brought together. What, did we get Rika together? I didn't know. It didn't imply that, did it? The club members weren't even put together there, like around Rika. The club members were stationed on a hill overlooking Okinamaya. There was Keiichi, Rena, and Mion. Also Rika and Satoko, who they had rescued. They were all in worn-out clothes, covered in dirt, stains and dust, all the way soiled with blood. Those 3 bright red days were violently long. I passed by without a moment to spare on sleep. So it's already done. Really, it's just get it all out. All of them were there, without anyone missing. The ferocious battle certainly did take place. But to the club members, only the result, their victory, was important. The deadly combat that led to this point was no longer worth remembering. All that mattered was that everyone had safely gathered here. What was even more important than that was the sight of Okinamaya in the distance. It hadn't ended. From here it was plain to see that the madness hadn't remained limited to Hinamizawa. The town of Okinamaya too. I had a faint suspicion about this. This still isn't over yet, is it? Has this virus commotion only spread to Okinamaya? Or do you think it's spread even further? I can't tell by looking from here. Has the whole world gone to ruin? I don't know. But we're all here. It's not like everyone in Hinamizawa went crazy either. That's true. There's still those who retain their sanity even now. I'm sure there are some in Okinamaya as well. Might need to scout it out first. I figured you'd say that. We have to see for ourselves whether the world's really been destroyed or not. The village is about to run out of food and daily necessities. We threw off our pursuers, but there's no need to stay in the village. I'm worried about Shion-san. In that case, it's settled. Let's go into town, to Okinamaya. Rika? I'll stay here. Rika? I'll stay behind in Hinamizawa, because once this commotion is settled, I'll need to tell them this is where they belong. I couldn't understand all of what Rika was saying, but I could understand she said she'd remain in the village by herself. No way! That's dangerous, Rika. Those guys are still out searching for you, you know? I'll be alright. We're good at hide and seek. Nipa! Rika smiled like she usually does, showing us that we had no chance of breaking her resolve. Because Satoko was her best friend. She understood there was no convincing Rika when she gave us that look. Rika-chan. You don't need to worry about me. I'd rather you go check on the world. Is this the beginning of the end to this commotion? Or is it already over? I want you to figure that out. After telling us that, Rika waved her hand goodbye. We all prayed for Rika's safety, and then slowly set off. Behind us, Rika spoke with a beautiful smile and a clear voice. Fight. Oh, you guys. What? I was not expecting another cinematic. At that point as well. Kamikashimashi chapter has been added. Is that the one that was, locked before? Let's double check before we stop for today. I thought it was going to end by there though. I mean, it was going for a long time after every other part was like 10-15 minutes. Oop, didn't mean that. What have I done? Right, okay. So we've done bus stop, we've done Outbreak. This one's unlocked now. We'll check that out next time. So, this has been Greenie XI. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in a bit when we go for the next arc. I'm wondering if it'll carry on with their journey, or if that's meant to be like an open-ended sort of scenario. They go to they go to the next place and then they keep discovering it's spread and spread, or they do that open-ended thing with a lot of like those sorts of zombie films and all that sort of stuff, don't they? So yeah, thanks again for watching, folks. See you again in a bit.